G'day, I'm Nathan and I'm the lead game designer for Kingless. Today we've put together a quick video showing some Kingless gameplay on Tabletop Simulator. We would have loved to be able to do this gameplay in person, but with the current self-isolation requirements due to COVID-19, we've had to take a different approach. But here's Kingless. So at the start of every game, you decide who goes first. So if you haven't played a game, it's whoever's dug a hole last will take the first turn. Otherwise, it's if you had a king from last round. So last round I won and became the king, so I'll be going first. Seb came last and has the fool's hat. So what you can see now is the punishment of the fool, where he has to give the king his highest influence card from his start hand. So he's given me Bron Lawbringer. I'm going to now return him any card back, so we all have 5 cards, and the game will start. So the goal is to have the highest amount of influence at the end of the game, and the end game is triggered by having a combination of 5 items or dwarves in your play area. So at the start of every turn you draw a card, as I just did, and you end your turn by playing a dwarf or an item into your play area. So I've just played Floken Weird-Seer, who has the ability to draw 1. So now it's Seb's turn and he's drawn his card. So you can also play events during your turn, and you can play any number of events, and that's how you interact with the other players, and they can be quite powerful. So here Seb's played Blissthene Greenleaf, which allows him to pickpocket 1 card, so he's taken that from Alex, and that will end his turn because he played a dwarf. Although Seb should have flipped that card before taking it over. So Alex has started his turn, and he's drawn 1. And he's played Spud. Spud's ability allows you to draw 1 card, and since he's played a dwarf, that'll end his turn, taking it back to me. So I've drawn up, and I've played the keg. The keg's an item, as you can see from the icon in the top left, and it means that my dwarfs can't be claimed. Claim is a mechanic which basically means it will specify either a specific dwarf or item. I'll get back to it in a second. So Seb's just played Pile of Explosives, which his text is to gutter 1 item, and he's targeted the keg. So unfortunately I lose that, and then he plays Clout and Biscuit. That allows him to draw 2 cards and end his turn. So the claim mechanic basically means that if another player has the card that you're trying to claim in their hand, they have to give it to you, or if it's in play. So Alex has just played the Orc Attack event, which allows him to gutter a dwarf and pickpocket a card. Pickpocket's just taking a card from someone's hand. So he's stolen a card from Seb, and he's gutted Cloud and Biscuit. So since he played an event, his turn doesn't end. It's only when you play a dwarf or an item, or if you choose to end your turn. So Alex has played Recovery, which has the Second Wind effect. So Second Wind is powerful. If there's a dwarf or an item on top of the discard pile, it brings it back and puts it into play. And since it was another event, it didn't end his turn. So Alex just played Small Will to end his turn, with the claim effect on Giant Bill, and since none of us had Giant Bill and it wasn't in play, it didn't do anything. So I've just played the Bounty board, which means whenever I gutter an opponent's dwarf, I can draw a card. But that ends my turn and play continues to Seb. So Seb has played Big Knight, an event card which allows him to gutter a dwarf and to gutter an item. He can spread the love, he can target me and Alex, and that's what he's done there, to discard a dwarf from Alex and an item from me. And since that was an event, it didn't end his turn. There are a few events that are powerful that they will end your turn. So he's continued and he's played Giant Attack on myself, which means I have to discard 2 cards from my hand. So I do a bit of damage control and try and find the least valuable cards. And he's continuing now, and he's pickpocketing, as I described before. That allows him to take a card from another player's hand, and he's selected Alex. Okay, and then to end his turn, he's played the Mammoth Skull Trophy, which is an item that makes him immune from the Orc Attack event. So Alex starts his turn. And he also plays Giant Attack. Who does he target though? And he selected Seb, so Seb's going to have to discard 2 cards. And Alex's turn continues. He plays Clorrit the Young, who allows him to gutter Gregoth the Blind, but Gregoth isn't in play, so he ends his turn. Now, Alex ended that turn with less than 3 cards in his hand, so he actually gets to draw up to 3. We do this to keep the game flowing and keep a lot of action in, so people don't get stranded with a low amount of cards. So as I start my turn, I play more Game Getter, who claims the Haunch of Mammoth. No one had the Haunch of Mammoth in their hand or on the table, so it didn't have an effect. So Seb's now taking his turn, and he's actually decided to end his turn without playing a dwarf or item, which allowed him to draw a card as he ended his turn. And now it's Alex who's just drawn. Alex is currently on 3 dwarfs and items. The end game of Kingless is triggered when you get to 5. So if he can combo 2 dwarfs out, which can happen through event cards, he could have ended the game, but he didn't have that chance. So he's just played 1, and it's my turn. So I've played the event there, Recruit, which allows you to reveal the top 2 cards from the deck. And if one's a dwarf or item, it goes into your play area. But the action text doesn't take effect. But both were events, so nothing happened for me, unfortunately. So I then end my turn by playing Vantine the Worried, and no one had the Water Closet, so the claim effect didn't take place. So Seb started his turn, and he's played Giant Bill, who has claim Small Will. So that's allowed him to claim Small Will from Alex, which is very good, because Alex only had to play 1 dwarf or item, and he would have triggered the end game. So Alex draws up. He can see that I'm on... so Alex has played Elvish Plot. So that's a card that gutters 1 from everyone's play area, including the person who played it. So Alex gets to pick who gets discarded, and he would obviously pick his lowest influence card and the highest influence card of every other player. Okay, and since that's an event, Alex's turn's still going. And he's also continuing. He's playing Big Knight to gutter a dwarf and an item. And he's picking Seb. And it looks like he's targeting Giant Bill and the Mammoth Skull Trophy. So Alex's turn still goes. And he's getting low on cards, and he's played Bribe. So Bribe's one of the powerful event cards. So that actually claims any dwarf or item from another person's play area. So since it does add a dwarf into your play area from another person, that is an event that ends your turn. But that's clearly written on the action text. So I've drawn, and I've played Zatar Godbotherer, who's quite a unique card. He's only got 1 influence, but he's immune to all actions. So he's going to be in my play area till the end of the game. And that 1 influence might stop me being the fool. So Seb started, and he's played Thrombold, who allows you to recruit. So that's the reveal 2 cards from the top, and take a dwarf or item and put it in your play area. So there was an item there, so he gets it into his play area. Alex's turn now. He plays the Comfy Chair, which is an item that allows you to draw +1 cards at the beginning of your turn, which makes it a very powerful item. So I've just drawn there, and I've drawn Accident, which is one of the stop cards. You can play stops during other people's turns to cancel their actions. So I've played Bribe there, and since I just... Oh, here we go. And Alex has stopped my bribe. But then I stop his stop, which means the bribe goes ahead. So I selected the Comfy Chair to take there. It might not have his highest influence number, but it gives me +1 cards at the start of my next turn, so I rank that pretty highly. Seb starts his turn. We're all on 3 in the play area, so if anyone can combo 2 out, they would trigger the end game. Seb plays a dwarf, Blowsy the Bossy, who has to, with 9 influence, he actually discards 1 card from your own hand. So Alex draws and plays. He plays Hearty Meal, which allows him to draw an extra 2 cards, and since this is an event, his turn continues. You have to keep in mind that Seb's on 4 dwarfs or items here, and yes, so he plays Dodgy Construction, which gutters an item to try and stop Seb from triggering the end game. When the end game's triggered, every player gets 1 last turn to try and raise their influence and lower others. So you really get an advantage by triggering the end game, because you get the last action. So Alex there just played Gore Digs Harder, and he was trying to gutter my comfy chair, which I value quite highly, so I stopped the dwarf's effect with the Distracting Fart stop card. That doesn't stop the dwarf being played, it just stops the effect. So now I'm playing Ulf Pocket Delver, and I've picked Alex, so I'm going to take a card from his hand because of the pickpocket effect. And that ends my turn having played a dwarf. So Seb's now seeing here at the start of his turn, if he doesn't change something on Alex's play area, it's very likely he will be able to end the game. So there, Seb's played a Good Brew, which allows him to claim a dwarf or item. So he's taken Egrunt Hardfeaster as the highest influence card at 8. So now it's Alex's turn, because a Good Brew is a powerful event, and that's one that ends your turn. Alex draws up. Now, he knows that I'm on 4, so if he can't stop me from getting to 5, I'll be triggering the end game next turn. And it looks like he can't do it, so he's played the Haunch of Mammoth, which allows him to draw additional cards. So now it comes to my turn. I draw 2 cards because of the comfy chair, and I get to trigger the end game by playing. I'm taking a bit of time to consider what my best move here, because I have to plan for my next turn as the last action as well. So I've decided to play the Throwing Axe target to gutter Alex's Haunch of Mammoth, so he doesn't draw an additional card for his next turn. And now that I have 5 dwarfs and items in my play area, the end game is triggered. This means Seb is about to start his last turn. He plays Second Wind, and Seb has made a bit of a mistake because he was trying to do the recruit action. But the Second Wind allows him to take the Haunch of Mammoth from the discard. So since that's an event, he can play another card, and he's played Lelf the Loud, who allows him to draw a card. Drawing cards at this stage, even though he doesn't have another turn, is still important, because he could draw a stop or an hold card that could save his team. So Seb has a lot of cards in the play area and is looking quite powerful at the moment. Alex has played a pickpocket and he's targeting me, and he's taken my bribe card, which is quite disappointing for me, because that would have been a very good card to play next turn. So now Alex is considering his best play. So he's played Gutter, trying to gutter one of Seb's... but Seb's played Halt. So Halt is sort of like a super stop. Basically, a Halt can override stops, but stops can't go over a Halt. So Alex is going to now try and bribe to take one of Seb's cards. And Seb's halted again. So Alex is just... all his plans are falling apart at the moment, and he's drawn a card and ended his turn. So I'm now starting the last turn of the game, and I get to draw 2 because of the comfy chair. Okay, and I'm going to play Gutter, and I'm going to target Blowsy the Bossy, being Seb's highest influence card, to try and stop him from winning. And now that that's at the top of the discard pile, I can play Scud Bodenmender from my hand, and he has Second Wind, which allows me to take the top card of the discard and put it into my play area. And that ends the game. So now we all tally up our influence. 14, 15, 16, 20. I have 22. I believe Alex has 19. And Seb has 9, 15, 23. Well, more than me. I couldn't see it quite quick enough. So Seb with the highest influence becomes the king for the next round. And Alex gets the fool's hat. And that's the end. Thanks for watching, guys. And hope you like the game. We sure do.